Right. All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. I am super excited for today's interview with Chrissy. She is a mother of three and creator of ministeringprintables.com, formerly known as TP Girl. Chrissy devotes her time to serving others through sharing her printables, her online shop, her blog, and her course teaching others how to create beautiful printables too. So welcome, Chrissy.
Thank you.
So to get started, when did you decide to get the website and blog going? How did this journey get started for you?
Yeah, so I moved to Utah in like 2015, and it was a really hard move. I did not want to move here. I loved where we came from, Omaha, Nebraska, and I really loved it. And it was a hard move. And I found myself sort of drifting into like depression, a lot of anxiety. And my husband kept saying, you need to get back into Photoshop. And I have always loved, like I had been studying Photoshop for about, I don't know, maybe 9 years back then. I started when we adopted our oldest daughter, and she's 12 now. So that's when I really started, and I had kind of let it go, and I started creating, and then I realized I wasn't sharing it. Like I was creating printables, and then it was staying on my computer, or I'd print it off and look at it on my desk, and I started having these feelings like you should share your work, and so I started an Etsy shop. And that it started with that. And then I thought, there's some printables that should just be for free, like Words of the Prophets and things like that. So I created a blog. I actually fought the Lord really hard on this. I did not want to. Like, I kind of had always made fun of like Utah Mormon mommy bloggers. And yeah, here I found myself living in Utah and starting a blog. And it just sort of snowballed from there. I realized that I loved making printables and sharing them with the world, but at the same time, I wasn't making money. And at first I was okay with that, but then I realized like this is taking a lot of my time, and it's taking time away from my family, and I couldn't have the reach, the impact that I wanted, because I didn't have any money. So as you know, social media, you need to at some point market yourself if you want to have more impact. And so I realized I wasn't really having, I was having impact, but it wasn't feeling like it was worth my time, that it was taking away from my family. And so something had to give. I either had to shift to be able to start making money, or I needed to ease back and just kind of let the blog sort of just be like a weekend hobby once or twice a month. And so it became like a really prayerful time for me, like what should I do? And I felt the Lord, like I went just telling me to like share my talents and get out there more. And it was super scary. I'm not a person, like I'm an extroverted introvert, which doesn't make sense, but I'm like an outgoing introvert. Like when I'm with people, I'm like, hey, how's it going? But like, that's not my comfort zone. I would much rather be like reading a book in my room than like put myself out there. So it was like a super, super scary thing. I was always worried my work was going to be judged, that I was going to make a mistake and I was going to get called out on it, or so it was like a really scary time. And I really had to like grow into the role of like, I'm going to put myself out there, and then I'm going to put myself out there as an authority. I'm going to put myself out there and I'm going to say, I know what I'm doing, and trust me on this journey, because I'm going to take you along this journey with me. And I've had people who've been with me from the beginning and have watched me more, like TP Girl started out as like everything, like crafts, recipes, and then I realized that like my happy place was the gospel, and I needed to let that light shine. So then I came out and I said, you know what, I'm just going to create printables for, I started out saying Mormon women. And then of course, as the name of the church has evolved and they've asked us to change to, be more specific and to use the full name of the church, then it became Printables for Latter-day Saint Women. And then I realized like I need to embrace who I'm serving, and I need to be very clear in who I'm serving so that I attract the right people. And so that people, if they come and they just want like my I Spy spring game, by all means, just take it, but I'm not your person. Like, don't sign up for my list, because you're not my people. Right. So I've been very deliberate in my marketing, saying like, this is who I serve, and welcome. But but don't sign up for my list if I'm not your people. Like if you're not a Latter-day Saint woman, you're not gonna love me, right? So it's been like a huge growth process, but it's been super, super, super fulfilling, and it's led me on paths and to journeys and to meet people like you that I would have never met. So it's been a wonderful journey.
I love that. That's awesome. So let's kind of take a few steps back from the beginning so that our listeners and viewers, who I'm hoping are teenage girls kind of trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives, in addition to being an awesome mom. Um,
Yes.
so how did you learn Photoshop? Because that was kind of your foundation, your base, right? You couldn't have done what you're doing without knowing Photoshop, correct?
Right. So that's a good question. So I'm self-taught. So I actually, when we adopted my daughter, I wanted to make an adoption announcement. And so I thought I've heard about this cool thing called Photoshop Elements. So back then it was Photoshop Elements 5, just to like bring you up to date. Like right now it's Photoshop 2020 and like it's evolved, like it's gone through like 12 upgrades and it's completely different. Like the Photoshop I learned on versus today is so much like today's Photoshop is so much easier, so much I can't sing his praises enough. But back then it was super hard and I opened it up, I downloaded it on my computer and I thought I'm going to be able to just dive in and we're going to be able to, I figured it would be more intuitive. It would be like Word or something, right? Which was what we used back then instead of like Google everything. It was like, I'm like, this is going to be like Word. No, it wasn't. I didn't know how to do anything. Like literally, I had no idea what button to push. I didn't know anything. And so there was a girl who I went to church with who actually had a degree in graphic design. And I said, hey, if I pay you, will you come over and teach me just how to like do this thing? And so she was like, no, you don't have to pay me. I'm going to come over. So she came over for an hour and she taught me like, this is how you open a document. This is how you put something on here. This is how you put text on. And but the creative process was like sort of mind blowing to me that I'm like, I can create something and then I can walk away, right? Because I had been like a paper scrapbooker and that's intense, right? Like that's paper and glue and glitter and scissors everywhere for days, right? So this was like mind blowing. I'm like, I can create beautiful things and then I can walk away and come back and it, doesn't take over my life, doesn't take over my house. So then I started thinking, how else can I learn more? So I started there was like free classes back then. And I started like watching, YouTube wasn't a thing quite back then, but I started like reading whatever I could get my hands on and just really trying to explore it. And then classes started coming. There was like lynda.com came out and there was like digital scrapbookers that had come out and were teaching like classes. And so then I started paying money to take classes and then it just sort of evolved. And then I was like, okay, I want to learn more. So then I started reading college textbooks on like what makes good design, because I was realizing that I was creating printables. They didn't look awesome. It was more like sort of like slapstick thrown together. So I was like, okay, so I have flowers and text and this girl has flowers and text, but hers looks awesome. Why? Like why is that? And so I started learning, I just started again, like diving in, like what makes good design? What does it mean to lead the eye? Or how do you know what colors to pick? And so I started that journey. And so I'm completely self-taught and it's just been little by little, but it like keeping learning has like fueled the progression. So I started on Photoshop Elements, then I learned the full version of Photoshop, then I learned Illustrator, then I learned Premiere Pro, and now I'm trying to like learn the other like InDesign and things like that. So it's just, I think continually learning whatever interests you is key to whatever you decide you want to do. Just keep learning and keep that fire going because, there's that 10,000 hour rule. I don't think maybe I have hit 10,000 hours, but it's just what I was interested in just kept me learning and coming back for more until now I feel like, yeah, show me what you want me to create. I can create anything for you. So, and it doesn't like, and I say that, but I like absolutely mean it because of my confidence has increased so much over the 12 years where I'm like, it's like so easy for me now. And I'm like, yeah, tell me what color. Yeah. So.
And you can tell from your printables because they are intimidating to someone like me. I would think, how in the world could I ever make something like that? Especially your I Spy ones, which are really fun and very intricate for someone who doesn't really know what they're doing. So I think that's cool. And I think that's great. So what came first, TP Girl or the Etsy shop?
Etsy shop came first. So the Etsy shop came first and I was just kind of throwing whatever, like kind of hit me out on the moment for Etsy. And I was making a little bit of money. But I realized I wasn't having the reach that I wanted. And I didn't like I said, I really felt strongly that like I should make printables that people don't have to pay for. I grew up like super, super, super poor. That's the name TP Girl. We lived in an actual TP, like we had a TP. And so I grew up really poor, and I thought, man, I could have never paid money for a printable, right? So I started, so that's why I started my blog, was so that I could get free printables in people's hands, but also so I could build my audience. And I realized like, if I build my audience, then there's people to work with, then there's people, then there's opportunity there.
So tell us about the process of getting a blog going, because I think it sounds a little bit easier than it actually is. And maybe for the teens out there now, they're so good at all this stuff, so it may just not be an issue whatsoever, but it can be challenging. So did you like create your own blog? Did you pay someone to create it for you? How did you learn how to like function within that website?
Well, that's a great question. And honestly, in the 4 years that I've been doing this, like the whole space of creating blogs has completely changed. The landscape is completely different, but I do have some insight on this, and I share my opinion quite strongly. And I do have a strong opinion for this. And I believe that if you're going to start a blog, I guess it depends on the purpose of your blog. There's these, there's like Squarespace and Wix out there that seem to make it easy, but also make it hard in the long run because you don't have a lot of options to pull in. So I always recommend that you actually just start at WordPress, because most people end there anyway. So why not just start there? And it's so much easier than it ever has been. And I honestly believe these teens could start there and could like put together their blog in a heartbeat. But I would suggest that you start with WordPress. And, and there's tools out there where you can design it yourself. My current blog, I paid someone to help me design it, but now I go in and I do all my own design works, because it's this sort of like drag and drop, like blocks and things like that. So anytime I want to change my homepage, now I know how to do it because she installed it for me, taught me how to use it, but now I can do it myself, which is so much easier than it used to be, where you had to like kind of know code and CSS. And now these days you absolutely do not have to know any of that. So I use Elementor Pro on my website, which is like, it adds the like blocks where I can drag and drop things. And but yeah, it's great. I will say the tech part is the easy part of starting your blog. The hard part is finding your audience and building your audience, because the internet space is so noisy. There are like thousands of blogs, I would say hundreds of thousands of blogs that start a day, and most of them never make it off the ground. And I think part of it's because people give up too quickly. Like they sort of think like, I'm going to start a blog and then I'm going to have people come and I'm going to be an instant success, and then I'm going to make a lot of money. And the opposite is true. Like a blog is a long-term game. And it doesn't necessarily have to be. If you have a product that you can start selling right away while you're giving great content, you'll start making money faster than I did. I didn't understand that. I thought, oh, if you build it, they will come. No, that's not how the internet space works today, because because it's so noisy and so crowded. So you really have to know who your people are. And that's what I didn't understand. I was sort of like, if I make everything, then my blog will be for everyone. Well, if you are trying to reach out to everyone, you're reaching out to no one. And so people didn't know if I was coming or going. Like, was I a recipe blogger, or was I a craft blogger? Was I a Mormon blogger, or was I a DIY blogger? So I really had to focus in and niche down. And that's when I really experienced the monetary growth.
Perfect. So for all of those people out there that just don't understand the blogging scene yet, don't know how it works, how do bloggers actually make money creating a blog?
That's my favorite question, because that's where the confusion is, right? So many people think like, I'm going to make money on ads, because that's what we see, right? We go to these blogs or every website is covered in ads these days, right? And we think, oh, well, that's money. All I have to do is create something and, put some ads on, and then it's like, passive income, right? Like I'm making money in my sleep. Well, in the old days, like 10 years ago, you could make really good money on ads. And you can today too, if you have high page views. Like I'm talking like 500,000 to 1 million page views, you will make good money. But your money is also dependent on the stock market. And as we're talking, their stock market is crashing. And so RPMs are just like crashing as well. So RPMs is how much money you get per page view. And it's pennies. Like, I'm just going to be honest with you. It's pennies, right? So the better way then is to create a product that speaks to your people, and then your people buy it. So like, just like, I'm just going to throw out a number out there because I'm, like, you could, yesterday, my ad revenue, I made like $3, but I made over $100 from my shop, right? So you need to create a product that people are willing to buy. And my products are pretty low priced, like $5, $7, $12, but I have learned who my audience is and what it is that they want. And so then I can create products to fill that need. So we're both being served. And so the best way, I feel like, going forward, like if you're going to start a blog in this very, very, very busy digital age, you create a free product to attract your audience. And then they sign up for your newsletter. And then on that newsletter, you can sell them products that apply to them, products that solve a problem that they have, right? And it seems silly, like printables. What problem does Printable solve? Well, I'm solving a problem of like, how do I keep my kids busy on this church bench? How do I help families have fun at doing home church? How do I, how can you decorate your young women's room? I'm solving those problems. Or how do I make a birthday card for a Relief Society secretary? So those are the kind of problems that I'm solving, and people are paying for it. So you find out who your people are, you decide who your people are, you create some great content to attract those people, and then they're willing to invest in you because they have trust in you and they understand that you know what you're talking about. So it starts out small, but it builds up. So the first year I was a blogger, I didn't make any money at all. Like I made $1,600 for a whole year. Not much, right? It didn't even hardly cover my expenses. But then it has ballooned, and the next year I made 16,000, and then after that it's just kept ballooning and ballooning. So I think you have to be more in the mindset of like a long-term game, unless there are these overnight successes. But what people don't understand is like they have a degree in marketing, or their husband has a degree in marketing, or they have a talent that they brought with them that, as the world needed, right? So it's kind of the more familiar game is you start out and you just slowly build up over time. So if you need money like today, blogging is not your answer. If you need money today, you get a job, and blogging then becomes your side hustle. But if you have time, like I started this when my youngest was in preschool, right? And now she's in second grade. So I had that flexibility of time to help out.
Yeah. So what is a realistic time frame? So would you say give it a good year before you start seeing some consistent cash flow coming in, if you're able to understand the marketing side of it? Does that sound doable?
Yeah. So I heard this phrase one time at a blogging conference, and it said, the first year you feed your blog, meaning you put money into your blog. The second year, your blog feeds itself, meaning your blog will make enough money to pay for all of your own necessities. And then the third year, your blog feeds you. And that seems to be very realistic. And that has been the case for me as well.
Okay, that's good information. Good to know. So you mentioned a blog conference. So does that mean you were able to reach out to some experts to learn these blogging tricks and to kind of figure out how to do it? Would you
Absolutely.
recommend anything to others?
Oh yeah. I the first year I went to one or two. The first 2 years I went to as many blog conferences as I could. And then after that, I realized like the conferences were all saying the same things. They were very much built for like newbies, and I wanted to go deeper. So I actually have a business coach, and I pay her, and she helps me like go through my sales pages. She helps me work through, she helped me build my sales page for my class. And I'm in a mastermind group where we're a group of about 10 women, and we all help each other out. And none of them are LDS but me. We all come from, one's a food blogger, and one's a DIY, and one's a quilter, but we all come together and help each other out. And so that's where I put my training money today, rather than traveling and going to blogs, except for now I'm speaking like at blogs. So now I'm like speaking at the SEAT conference and things like that. So then once you are seen as an expert, your role sort of reverses. But I still know I have a lot to learn. That's why I have a business coach. But it's more, instead of being like talking to a general audience of 500 who are all different levels, she hones in on what my message is. And she's not LDS, but she's brilliant. I love her so much. And she like really helps me hone in my message and helps me figure out like how to bring in income residually. So, and it's been a huge blessing, because right now I'm homeschooling. I got 3 kids out there, and I haven't had time. Like usually I work when the girls are at school. Well, now home is school, and I haven't hardly worked at all, and yet I'm still bringing in income for our family. So I paid the price in the beginning, and now I'm reaping the reward of like, yeah, now I hardly, I like trying to answer my emails every day, and I'm putting out, a few new products here and there, but not as much as I usually do, but I'm still making that money. So it's a huge blessing, especially like right now when, times are getting really tight and tough, to have that extra income in, but still know that I'm a full-time mom. Like, I'm going to leave this call. I'm going to go help them with their homework. Then we're going to do laundry. Then we're going to go for a walk. And my blog is still going to be operating, and I'm still going to be making money behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's super great. So I was going to ask, would you recommend, because obviously going to these conferences, getting a business coach, mastermind groups, they all cost money.
Yes.
So it's always a tricky part, especially for people starting these businesses. Would you recommend trying to figure out how to just invest this money even when you don't have extra money coming in? Or do you just kind of wait until you build up a little bit of momentum and then you have those funds to start putting them into your own self-education and keep you growing and learning and excelling?
That's another great question. It depends on your circumstance. We had a little extra money saved up, so I used our family money to pay for that first blog conference that I went to, and we were able to my husband understood where I was coming from. He understood that this was like important to me, and so I supported him through like years and years of like college, and I have a college degree too, just FYI. I think girls need college, but like, so it became a sort of thing where I was like, this is really important to me. Can we invest our family finances in this? And I feel like that did like spur me forward a little bit. It did help me grow faster. But if you don't have that privilege, if you are literally like learning paycheck to paycheck, don't put your family's finances at risk. You can learn so much through free resources. There's so many free classes out there on how to grow a blog. There's so many great YouTube channels out there now, so many great websites, and they will always pitch you a product at the end because that is what they're doing. But you don't have to buy that product. You just say, I'm here for the free content. And then, and you will be tempted to like buy all these like courses on how to grow a blog and stuff like that. But you always put your family finances first, because you can learn so much using just free what's out there, but just understand it will take you a little bit longer, because the benefit of going to these conferences is that you meet people and you're networking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So was the business coach coming into the picture, was that what allowed you to figure out how to create your own course and teach other people to do what you do?
Yeah. So I needed her to like help me get out of my own mindset, because I had this big, when I decided I had in my mind, I wanted to build a course for a year, and I hadn't moved forward on it. I was stuck in that trap of fear of like, who am I to tell people how to do this? What if they don't like it? What if people write bad things about me on the internet? And I needed someone to sort of pull me out of my own head. Just like I'm a big believer in therapists for like dealing with, relationships and boundaries. I needed like a business coach to kind of help me see like, so what if they hate it? You just return their money. Like, not a big deal. I just need, and I was like, well, and I had sort of this imposter syndrome, which everyone goes through. It's very, very normal when you put yourself out there to have that imposter syndrome of feel like, who am I? No, I'm not good enough. And so she really helped me like put together the sales page, helped me figure out like how to price it. I put it through a beta course. I asked like 5 women to take it before I even put it out so that they could give me recommendations, like what worked, what didn't work, what was frustrating, what wasn't frustrating. So that by the time I launched it, I was like I felt like, okay, I'm in a good spot. Like I know I'm giving really good content. It's not going to be for everyone. I will have refund requests, which is normal. Every content creator has that, but she kind of gave me that mental courage to step forward. And then she helped me along that path, refine it, like, make sure you have testimonials here, and make sure you have, like speak their language and things like that. Things that like don't come naturally to me because I don't have a background in marketing.
Yeah. So what are the hardest parts of this industry for you?
Like Pinterest can be a deadly trap for me, because I get on there and I'm like, look at all these beautiful things. Why didn't I think of that? Ooh, can I make that without copying her or whatever? And then I'm like, no, like I stay in my lane. I know who my people are, stay in my lane. And so that's a hard part too, when you can look around online and see all of this beautiful work everywhere and feel, again, like, how do I become her? Or how do I not, or how can I create that and make it my own or whatever, instead of just like staying with my head in this, staying in my lane. So that's another challenge. And then the challenge of, some months you have good months and some months you have bad months as far as income. And so I remember the first time, like, I had been doing really, really, really well. It was the end of it was the end of the first quarter, and I had done really well. And then like the next quarter, like my income was like splattered, and I was like, what is happening? Like, what is going on? And then now I've been doing it so many years. I'm like, this always happens. This is a normal thing. But that first time it happened, I was like, I'm going to quit. I'm a failure. Like, my business is ruined. And so businesses have cycles, and I've learned what my business cycle is. And so all of these things, kind of, it's been like a very emotional journey, and it still is. But that's something that I've learned to accept. Like, every job has that emotional aspect to it, right? You're dealing with bosses or people or things you don't want to do. And this is still a job. So even though I love what I do, there is still the job parts, paying my taxes. I'm not an accountant. I don't love that, like figuring, all of these, like working with people who don't love what I do, working with the naysayers, and all of those things. So this is the most fulfilling job I could have, but there's still job aspects to it.
Yeah, there's always positive and negatives to everything. And I think it's just important for girls out there to know that. Like, the best job ever for you is still going to have a handful of things that are bringing you down, and you're feeling that negativity, and just be true to yourself and just be confident in who you are, and just rely on that heavenly influence to just keep you on the right path, and everything's going to be a-okay.
Yeah, and you just block out the people who are rude and negative, and they are out there. And we all know that there are trolls online. We know that they're there. And you're going to create something that you love, and people may not buy it, or they may say something negative about it. And that's going to break your heart. But you got to, sort of like gear up, realize like what your purpose is, and like keep moving forward. Because if you quit the first time someone sends you a bad comment, or the first time you make a mistake, you won't go anywhere. And I can't tell you how many mistakes I made, how many mistakes I still make. Like, I'll create a printable, I'll put it out there, and I'll be like, oh, someone will say, oh, did you know you misspelled this word? And then I feel horrible. And then I go back and I fix it, and I'm like, it's just a printable. It's just a printable. No one has died. No one is hurt. It is just a printable. I fix it and everything is okay. But you can't let, like, if you're going to go online, you're going to have a little bit of a tough skin, because there's people who are going to love you, and there's people who are not going to love you. And so you just got to delete those comments, you find your people, and and you just let them like be your people, and you let everyone else sort of have to go. Cause it's a little tough out there, cause people can say anything they want. And so, yeah, you have to have a little bit, you have to keep moving forward, even though it still hurts. I don't have tough skin. I'm learning to get tough skin. It still hurts, but you just got to keep going forward.
So any thoughts on how young ladies might know if this is a good fit for them?
I think putting themselves out there into the world and trying to share goodness is always a good idea. I think if you have that desire, I think you should do it, and these teenagers, they have time, they have talent, they have so much to put out there. And there are people, their generation has such a different insight, such a different technical ability, and they have such a unique way of viewing the world. And when you combine that, especially with sharing goodness, whether it's, it doesn't need to be a Latter-day Saint blog at all. Whatever it is that they're doing, they're putting goodness out there into the world. I think they should do it. I think, I always admire when I run across a blog that's from a 12-year-old girl, and I'm like, look at you being you and being brave and sharing goodness. I think if you have that desire, do it. In fact, I'm kind of encouraging my girls, like, you have these projects these goals you're supposed to be doing. How can you're already online all the time. So how can you use it to share goodness? Like, how, I think if they have any desire, and some people are completely like, oh, I don't even want to go there, then don't go there, honestly. But if you have these little nudges saying, oh, I could do that, do it. Especially when you're a teenager, because you don't need the income. You can literally be a path of growth where you're just like, hey, I'm just doing this for fun. It could just be your hobby until you're ready. Then you built up the skill so that when you want to be a stay-at-home mom and you want that income coming in, you've got your audience, you've learned your lessons, you've pivoted already so many times, where I was pivoting like 3 times in 3 years, they've already pivoted and they've already found out what, and then if they decide, hey, I actually don't like this anymore, I want to go here, they've already got all these skills that they've built up over here that they can start this and then really start to like have influence and make money.
I think you're right too. I never really thought about this from your perspective, but I think girls are going to know, hey, I like being online. I like interacting with people, or maybe I love writing about things, or I hate writing about things. So I think at a young age, they're going to get a feel for whether or not they're really kind of loving this avenue or not. And I love the idea of just testing the waters as a teen, in high school, or even younger, working on some goals and working on some just inspirational things, talents, and things that you're interested in, and just getting kind of a feel for where you're at with this. And some people will just take off and it'll just fall into place and it will feel wonderful. And other people will be like, yeah,
This is not for me.
Move on.
There's a lot of people who are like, I would never do the online scene. And I'm like, okay, that's totally cool. And I was that person 6 years ago, and so, but we grow and we change. And if we allow ourselves to go with that, and especially these young girls, I would just say, do it, but don't do it hoping that you're going to get 1,000 likes. Don't do it hoping that you're going to be the next YouTube star, right? Like, do it because it's fun. Do it for experience, and don't base your self-worth on how many likes you get on Instagram. Like that's the terrible part, right? That's the terrible part that we're seeing, is that people are basing so much of their self-worth on their likes and how many followers they have on Pinterest. So that can be scary. And so that would be my warning to teenage girls. Like this is about your own personal growth at this point as a teenager, right? This is about you and you figuring out you and how you can share goodness into the world. And so don't let that social media aspect part like tell you that you're not doing a good job, because everyone starts with 0 followers. Everyone starts with 0 likes. Everyone starts with 0 subscribers, right? And then you build it as you build yourself, right? Like my first blog posts were awful. I didn't know how to write. Wasn't good at taking pictures. Like they are like, I cringe when I think of them, right? But I kept going forward and I didn't give up. And now I'm really pleased with how my blog looks and the aesthetics and all of that. But if you saw what I did 4 years ago, you would be like, who is this girl? Why is she doing this? So be careful of the social media part. Just understand that it is a growth process. And then, but yeah, especially when you're sharing goodness into the world, that's what the world needs. That is so much what the world needs.
Yeah. And you have to start somewhere.
You do.
We're not all going to be experts right at the beginning, or else, no one would ever get anywhere in life. So you just have to start where you are and just grow and just do the best you can do.
Start where you are, and you pivot when you want and when you feel like you need to, and then you find your lane. And then once you know what your lane is, you stay in it. So I will never pivot again from being a Latter-day Saint blogger. But I was pivoting a lot in the beginning, but then I found my lane, and now I stay in that lane. So it is a journey, and it is not, sometimes like you go and you hire for a job and you get a paycheck in 2 weeks, and that's not how this is. But long-term is powerful. Long-term is very, very powerful and very, very impactful, both with, the good you can do in the world, but also the income that you can bring into your own life to bless your family. So I do love it. I do think girls should try it. I think that, especially now that everyone is completely internet home, like we're all on Zoom, we're all doing these things. These girls are learning how to be in front of the camera, which I did not have that luxury, right? These girls are knowing how to articulate themselves, how to look into the lens. They're learning how to be, it's a blessing. They're gonna, if this is what they want to do, it could be so good at it.
For sure. So any last minute words of advice or resources like, where should they go first? If they just want to give this a go, just start testing the waters, what resource should they go to first?
I think they need to find people that they resonate with and follow those people. There are a million gurus out there. I do not follow them because there are gurus who I admire their business success, but they work like 14 hours a day. That is not the lifestyle I want. I follow people who have the lifestyle I want, which is working and being able to make money, but my focus is always first my family and second my church. So, and the service that I give there. So follow people who have the lifestyle you want, and follow the people who resonate, who you're like, oh, I like them. Like, yeah, okay, I get them, because, you know, if you follow everyone, you're going to get 1,000 different pieces of advice, 1,000 different like takes on it. And so, I mean, like one expert is saying this and the other expert is saying this, and you're like, well, which one is it? You know, or some people are saying follow, you know, start on Instagram. And then other people are saying, no, start on Pinterest. And you're like, well, which is it, you know? And so you follow the people who have the lifestyle that you want, and you follow the people, you take the advice of the people who have the life that you want.
I think that's great advice, especially because I think what we see on YouTube, especially, is that they're like, how to make $1 million in like 2 weeks. And I don't think that we understand that those people that live that lifestyle of super, super high income work nonstop. I really think they work nonstop.
And they have teams. They have teams and teams of people. Like, they hire out buildings, and they've got like one of the girls who I was actually listening to on a podcast show. She's like, I have 60 employees, but you only see her. You only see her face. You do not understand the whole team that is happening. And so, yes, so I always say, okay, this is how much revenue you brought in, but what is your actual income, right? Because, and a lot of these people, they're spending thousands of dollars on Facebook ads. Sure, they're bringing $1,000, but they're also spending $1,000. So you need to be careful with the numbers that are thrown out there, because they're not always accurate. So yeah, if you're willing to pay $1,000 of Facebook, you will have a high reach and you will make more money. But are you breaking even? How much money are you really bringing home, right? And so be careful of that numbers game, because just because they're saying they brought in that much money does not mean they are keeping that much money, and it doesn't mean that much money is staying in their pocket. So and they are spending time, and they have huge teams, and they are working 50 to 60 hours a week, even though you see them on the camera and they're like totally chill. They've got their team and they got their cool microphone, and they're like, hey guys, like I just showed up here like this, right? No, they've scripted their entire show, and they've had it planned out, and they've had experts come in and tell them how to plan out their show. So it's so much of what we see is not real. That's why the world needs what's real, right? So be careful with everything that you see on there, and that you see out there, because you don't understand what is happening behind the scenes. You don't understand all of that. And so it looks real, but none of it's real. Like, it's not, I mean, it is, some of it is real. Like I have help too. I have hired a girl. She's helping me rebrand. I don't have time, when I went from TP Girl to Ministry Printables, to go back and change everything. She's helping me. And I have a business coach. So even though I say it's me, it's not really just me. I have, like I said, I have this business coach. I have this girl who's helping me. So yeah, just be careful of, I would say, be careful of those like wolves out there in sheep's clothing, because you can get into that trap of like, everyone's a success but me. No. That's not it at all. Or, you know, you don't know how many of those people you follow are bought their Instagram followers. How many of those people bought their Twitter followers? You know, you have to take everything and understand that it is maybe not all that it seems. And so don't base your self-worth and your success on this illusion that is like smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. And you know what? I've interviewed so many moms and so many women now that have created these wonderful home-based businesses and teach their skills and talents to others. And they just work a few hours a day. They don't make a huge, huge income, but they make a nice income, and they're happy, and they're able to put their kids and their family first. And that's where that true happiness and that true joy comes from. When we start chasing these numbers and we start chasing the success, that's when we get all confused and off track from where we are. So we don't have to make what society considers a decent and great amount of money to find that happiness, but it is good to just contribute to society and to share with others and to be happy and grow your talents so that you can focus on what's most important, and we don't have to make a ton of money and don't have to spend a ton of time to do that.
Hey, but you get caught up into it real quick. I will say
You
that
do.
once you get into that online space, it's like, oh, like I am always fighting myself on this. I'm like, if I work more hours, think of how much more money I can make, you know? And then, but I go back to that. I'm like, I'm making good enough. I'm living the lifestyle I want. I don't, my kids, I only have them for 18 years. And then I send them out into the world and I hope that they are functioning human beings. And I want to like treasure that, these 18 years that I have with them. But I still also want, it's so fulfilling for me. What I do, it's so fulfilling. I truly love it. I love, even if I were to quit my blog tomorrow, I would still create printables and still put them online somehow. I love what I do. So it makes sense that I make money doing what I love, but it can get so, like you said, so quickly. It can be like, oh, but if you just do this, you'll make this much more money. And then before you know it, you're in that trap of like, you're working till midnight. You know, you haven't gone to bed with your husband in like 3 months, and your kids, you know, you haven't been out to lunch with your girlfriends in weeks, you know? And so I agree with you. You figure out when is enough. And actually that is my word of 2020 is enough, because I found myself always saying like, I don't have enough energy. I didn't get enough sleep. I didn't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time to do this. And I'm like, no, I have enough. I have enough of everything. And when is it enough? And so finding that balance, it's a constant battle of like, slow down. But there are times when I speed up. I will say this, when I'm creating my new packets for like 2021, those, I spend a month where I'm working 40 hours a week. I'm trying to get those packets out there, and I want them to have enough time to be able to, you know, have what they need for Come Follow Me and for their young women in their primary classrooms. So there is those seasons, right? Like in the summertime when my kids are home, I don't hardly work at all. And my business is slow. People are out, well, they won't be this year, but usually they're out in the sun and vacationing, not worry about printables. But then there are those seasons where I am putting in for a good 1 to 2 months, I'm putting in 40 hours a week, but then it's, you know, then I pull back again, and that fuels my income for the rest of the time. So, you know, will say that there are seasons of intense like focus and busyness. When I was putting my course out, I actually skipped a family. My husband took the kids out camping without me so I could focus on and get those, because I wasn't being able to get it done. So also we have to, I think, you know, there are seasons of more intense growth and work, and then back again.
Yeah, and I think I've seen that in all industries as well. There's always a more intense time, but it's great because you can work together with your spouse to just make it work and create balance for your family. But I think it's just all about setting those boundaries and just setting them right from the get-go. But I think every single woman struggles with that same thing of,
Absolutely.
of, of loving what they do, and it would be so easy to just go crazy and work nonstop. And they're like, nope, I've got to set those boundaries, because you're right. I mean, my oldest is 16 now, and I'm starting to panic. Like, oh my goodness, I only have a few more years and they're gone. Like, these are the most precious years I have left to influence them and be with them. And I just don't want to lose out on that time. And that's kind of caused me to do a giant career shift in my life. But anyway, I will stop there. I've taken up too much of your time. Thank
Oh,
you
I
so
love
much.
talking. We could go on all day.
I know, I could tell your passion and excitement is great. And I just keep thinking, oh my goodness, she's got to get back to her girls. She's got to get back to her girls. But I am just so happy for you. I'm happy for your success. You've done such an amazing job creating a flexible home-based business. You're influencing the world. I mean, goodness gracious, Chrissy, you are just a wonderful, wonderful person. And I'm just so happy that everything has come together for you. And I'm happy that you're able to share your success with others now through offering a course, because I think that's so huge. We can't do it by ourselves. If we really want to venture out and create our own businesses, and especially online, since there's so much going on, you just need someone, a mentor, someone you can trust, and someone who can help you. So I'm glad that you decided to take that jump and you're providing that for others. And most important, I'm just glad that you are so passionate about being a mom, and you're doing such a great job at it. So
Well, that remains to be seen. It's my goal. It is my goal. It's always like, and in fact, I will say that sometimes I even have physical, I made a printable where I said, this is my goal. Like, these are my priorities: family, church, business. So that I remind myself constantly. So because it's so easy, because online, like people are like, we love you, Chrissy. Thank you for this. I don't get that from my kids, you know? And so it's so easy to be pulled in and feel like a success online when I don't feel like a success necessarily like out there. So it's constant, like reminding me of what my goals are and what is important. And it's an ongoing struggle. And you know, I'm so impressed with what you're doing here, helping girls be inspired to how they can have it. They can be a mom and bring in income. Because the reality is at some point they're going to need to probably bring in income with the reality of our economy. So I admire so much what you're doing of helping girls see that you can bring in income and still put your family first, which for a lot of people seems like it doesn't mesh together, but it can.
It can. That's perfect. And that's a great way to end. Thank you so much,
Thank
Chrissy.
you. Bye.